And a very happy Friday to you at 12:08 in the West. It's the John Phillips Show. Mr. Randy Wang's in Culver City.
John, yesterday after his press conference, Gavin Newsom did the hat trick of left-wing podcasts. He was on Pod Save America. He was on the Media's Touch podcast. And he even brought his filthy mouth to Brian Tyler Cohen.
You know, these Trump supporters are going to claim that this was done in the interest of combating crime. But of course, we know that if you're looking at combating crime, there are other states across the country that have higher crime rates, higher per capita crime rates than Los Angeles and Washington, D.C. And yet these were the cities that he opted to deploy these people to.
Yeah, well, I think you should start with Shreveport, Louisiana, in Speaker Johnson's district that has 6+ times the per capita murder rate of Nancy Pelosi's San Francisco. What about the carnage, Mr. President, in Shreveport? Why aren't you protecting the folks there? 8 of the top 10 murder states in this country, red states. What bull?
Okay, this is in line with what he did during the fight over Prop 36. Remember that? When he was saying, oh, no, it's not Oakland that's violent, it's Bakersfield.
Murder capital of California.
I marinated in those juices all night last night, watching not only Gavin Newsom, but all of his warm-up acts at that rally.
Even Lorena?
Even Lorena. And I've got to tell you, I think I see how the Democrats are going to run against him for president. He laid out his hand of cards last night. Gavin Newsom is a guy who wants to be president so bad, he's willing to do or say anything required of him. And I think that's been obvious for quite some time. He is whatever he has to be. When he was the mayor of San Francisco, he was a conservative by San Francisco standards because the developers and the business community needed someone to go to bat for them. When he became lieutenant governor, he was a guy who thought that he was going to be governor much earlier in his life. Remember that? He was going to run against Jerry Brown. And he hired my pal, Gary South, to go after Jerry Brown because he thought he could beat Jerry Brown in a Democratic primary. And then Jerry Brown produced polls that showed that he would stomp all over him. Same thing with Antonio Villaraigosa. So he switched races, went to the lieutenant governor's office, and was a media darling for 8 years, where he hosted a show on Current TV. That was the Al Gore network. He became buddies with Elon Musk and others in the tech world and just kept his powder dry. And at that point in time, we had a bunch of mass shootings. So he wanted to be the gun control guy. He wanted to be Mr. Gun Control, the man whose passion is restricting gun rights. And then the mass shootings kind of dropped off, and he had to rebrand himself in other ways. So then it became time for him to run for governor, and Antonio Villaraigosa was in that race. This was the race that was supposed to happen in 2010 until Jerry Brown jumped in and disrupted everything. It was Antonio versus Gavin. And because Antonio came in with all of the charter school money, Gavin had to remake himself as a lefty, and he took all the teachers' union money. And he came in as the left-wing candidate. And he was a guy who was trying to be in the middle, once he got elected, of the Democratic Party, because the legislature is so far to the left, he knows if he was branded as that, he wouldn't win nationally. So he tried to position himself smack dab in the middle of where the Democratic Party was until the recall happened. And when the recall happened and he was running on his record, he realized he would lose. So he had to become the partisan warrior. And he became the partisan warrior during the recall. When George Floyd died, he became the guy who was going to bring in reparations. And he was going on Joy Reid and promising that he would nominate a black woman to the U.S. Senate if a seat were to open up. And he became the racial pandering guy. And then when Joe Biden announced that he was going to run for re-election, Newsom thought to himself, okay, Well, if Joe wins, Kamala's going to be the nominee 4 years from now. I need a federal appointment to keep myself relevant. So he then turned himself into the guy who was Joe Biden's biggest defender. Joe Biden is not only not senile, he's putting on a master class. And he campaigned all over the country on behalf of Grumpy Joe. And then when the Democrats lost the election, he became the Democrat who can talk to Trump's America. He can talk to people who live in red states. He can talk to people in those 7 swing states that threw the election to Trump and caused Kamala Harris to lose. And that's when he had the podcast where he had Stephen Bannon and Michael Savage and Charlie Kirk and all the rest. And then that blew up in his face like a hillbilly's rifle. And then he saw that the one thing that unites the Democratic Party right now, which is not policy, the Democratic Party is split on policy. Old-timey Democrats support Israel. New Democrats, young Democrats, want to defund Israel. The left wing of the Democratic Party wants transgenders in girl sports. The other side of the Democratic Party does not. The Democrats were split on whether or not Grumpy Joe should drop out of the race. They're split on whether or not Chuck Schumer is fit to lead the party. They're not on the same page right now. The one thing that unites moderate Democrats and liberal Democrats right now is they all hate Trump. So if you want to unite the Democratic Party, you have to be the one that hates Trump more than anyone else. And that's where Gavin Newsom is now positioning himself. He is whatever he has to be at any given moment in time. And he's dominating headlines right now, so I guess from his point of view, it's working. He is now being framed as the one who is going to stand up to Donald Trump. So his numbers in the national Democratic primary polls are going up. He was number 1 the last time I checked, with AOC at number 2 and Mayor Pete at number 3. But Mayor Pete is no real threat to anyone because no black voters support him. You can't win a Democratic primary without having some degree of support among blacks. It's that simple.
And Kamala's below all of them.
Yeah, she has just fallen off a cliff or was pushed off.
Anyone going to buy that? Anyone going to buy that book?
Nobody. So if you're AOC, let's say, and you're running against Gavin, what is the line of attack on him? Well, I think we now know. The line of attack on Gavin is that he's an inauthentic flake. And every time he changes his public persona, you give someone like AOC more ammunition. That's what she's going to say. And you know what? She's right. Gavin Newsom, you made national headlines saying after Arizona restricted abortion rights that you would allow abortion providers in Arizona to come to California and perform abortions. How many abortions were performed in California? Oh, that's right, 0. You made a big proclamation saying that California would be giving reparations to blacks. Then we found out it would bankrupt the state. What did you do? Let's just keep voting to study it. They got nothing. Gavin Newsom loves to make big, grandiose proclamations and have 0 follow-through. And now he may have committed the granddaddy of them all by having that political rally in Los Angeles, which all of us paid for, by the way. That was paid for by the taxpayers. And when confronted about it, he said it's a legitimate state expense because it was about educating you on pending legislation. Okay, we'll go with that. But the poll numbers are no good. And Arnold Schwarzenegger is pledging to travel up and down the state campaigning against it. Charlie Munger says he'll give him $30 million. Kevin McCarthy, if you believe him, says that he's going to raise $100 million.
No way.
In theory, even with $30 million, that's enough to get your message out. That's more than any Republican running for governor has been able to raise since Meg Whitman. So Arnold Schwarzenegger will be able to get in front of people and make the argument, especially when you're dealing with someone like him. He can get booked on the shows. He can pack a house if he's traveling into your town and wants to talk about this subject. He's been able to win statewide elections before. And now, with his new political persona, he's almost talking to a completely different crowd than he did the last time. Arnold is still technically a Republican, but Republicans have moved on from Arnold. Now his audience is independents and moderate to conservative Democrats. That's the crowd that he's going to talk to. And that's the crowd right now that's abandoning Newsom on this subject. If Newsom loses this vote, how do you think that's going to play in a Democratic primary? What do you think AOC is going to do with him if he promises that this ballot initiative is going to pass and he's going to gerrymander up the state and the Democrats are going to be in the majority because of it, and none of that happens? She's going to slice and dice him on that debate stage like a piece of chicken at Benihana's. That's what's going to happen. And with Newsom's big grandiose statements, frequently he's on both sides of everything. Whenever Newsom is given the opportunity to ban transgender athletes from girls' sports, he doesn't do it. He always reaffirms his supports for transgender athletes to participate in girls' sports. But then he goes on the podcast with Charlie Kirk and says that's not fair. He says he's not in favor of sanctuary state status, that he inherited that from his predecessors. Yet, you listen to what he says on left-wing media, and he's an open borders guy. He campaigned up and down the state against Prop 36 because he thought that was too harsh on retail theft. And then he goes on an interview and says, well, I'm a winemaker, and if someone came into my shop and started stealing my wine, they'd have hell to pay. I don't tolerate shoplifting.
He said he was a merchant.
That's right. He's a shopkeeper. If you're AOC and you're on that debate stage with him, you're going to look right into that camera and you're going to say, I'm going to defund Israel. Where are you, Gavin? I want transgender athletes on every basketball court in America. Where are you, Gavin? I don't want to lock anyone up for stealing things from Walmart because they're the real criminals. Where are you, Gavin? And it's going to box him in a way that he hasn't been boxed in before. He's allowed to be on both sides of everything right now. He's allowed to be all of these different personalities with these different public profiles and move from one to the next, to the next, to the next, like he's someone with multiple personality disorder. And he's able to get away with that in a one-party state where there's no real threat to his power. But on that Democratic primary stage, it's going to be a whole different situation because here's the thing. Because he is such a chameleon who adjusts to whatever the current circumstances are, if you're a liberal Democrat, what do you think he's going to do in the general election? You think because Gavin Newsom smiles and winks at you that when he's trying to get votes from conservative people in Pennsylvania or Wisconsin or Arizona that he's going to stick with you and not sell you out? Think again. He is going to be whatever he has to be, and that's the truth. And with Democratic candidates in the past, Democratic voters are pretty good at finding someone who sticks with what they say they're going to do. Think about it. Bill Clinton told them that he was a blue dog Democrat who was going to use triangulation to bring moderates and independents into the tent. And he governed that way more or less. Barack Obama ran as a liberal who said there's more of us than of them. I'm going to run as a liberal. I'm going to govern as a liberal, and that's the way it's going to be. And he followed through with that. That's how he governed. With Joe Biden, I think they understood that personally he was more conservative than his White House, but he was starting to lose it. And the people who work for him were much farther to the left than him, and they were the ones calling the shots. So that's what you got. With Gavin Newsom, as someone who's reported on him for years and years and years, I can't tell you what kind of president he would be because he doesn't know what kind of president he would be. He's going to look at the circumstances of the day and be whatever he has to be. And now he's going scorched earth on social media because he thinks that gives him credibility as a Trump hater. So if you're a fire victim and you're saying that you're not receiving excellent government services, he and his crowd are going to attack you in very personal terms, which he's doing. He's going after members of the legislature in very personal terms.
I actually like that one.
And he's going scorched earth on randos who are tweeting from their mother's basement because he thinks that makes him look strong. Gavin Newsom right now thinks he's in a very strong position to win the Democratic primary for president. If he loses this election, I am here to tell you it's over. And it may be over even if he wins. But if he loses this election, it's definitely over. You all watched Gavin Newsom's big campaign rally yesterday. What was your takeaway? 800-222-5222, 1-800-222-5222. If you'd like to email the show, you can do so at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. That's johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. And Randy, I know it's Friday. That means the weekend, well, we're knocking on the door, and we don't have live shows on Saturday or Sunday, but if you want to continue listening to us all weekend long, that's easy to do.
I'd like to think that you just need something to listen to while you're driving to do something fun on the weekend. Please don't just sit in your basement and listen to this podcast on a Saturday. It's a beautiful time of the year. That would depress the hell out of me. But if you do want to listen to endless hours of this, search for The John Phillips Show wherever you get your podcast, Apple Podcasts app, iHeart, Spotify. Search for The John Phillips Show. Hit subscribe. You can download all the episodes. You can do a Google on the YouTube. You can get the KABC app, the KSFO app. So many different ways to listen to us knocking on Gavin over the years.
Hagenberger.
All right, you heard from Gavin at his big rally yesterday. What say you at 800-222-5222, 1-800-222-5222. Let's go to Harley in Downey. Harley, hello.
Hey, John. I love the show. You guys are doing a great service to all of us. It's also very entertaining. I love Dr. Barbara Stone and Gloria Romero, and I wish you would have Gloria on a little more often. I caught the governor's press conference in downtown L.A. yesterday on mainstream media, of course. They showed it, but it didn't get much coverage otherwise. But he looks desperate to me in some of the things he's doing, and he's at risk of becoming a caricature of himself. And he'll be done politically when Saturday Night Live finally does a skit of him. What do you think?
Well, I saw the same things you did. And I think in his heart of hearts, he's hoping that a judge throws this out and he's not allowed to go to the ballot. Because if he goes to the ballot and the polls say he's going to lose and he ends up losing, that is catastrophic for him. But he's so far in right now, he can't be the one that pulls out because he'll look like a complete flake. Someone else has to come in and save him. And it doesn't look like Texas is going to back down. It doesn't look like Trump is going to back down. So he's going to need a judge to save him. And at this point, that hasn't happened.
The legislature needs to step up finally and take him on. This is the perfect one to take him on because it'll affect them, the redistricting.
Well, he's specifically leaving them out of it. He's only redrawing the congressional lines. He said he's not going to touch the Senate or the Assembly because he doesn't want to upset them.
Well, we'll see. If he's successful, and I don't think he will be, we'll see. And what's wrong with the citizens being responsible for drawing the congressional districts? It worked the last time. I mean, how cynical and calculating does it look even to the average voter for him to take that power away from us?
Well, I don't know if you saw it, but one of the speakers at his rally was this left-wing college professor from Pomona. And I found out later that she was on the redistricting committee, and she was one of the independents. And this woman was more of a hard partisan than many of the electeds who were there.
Yeah. Well, it'll be interesting. It's going to get really crazy leading up to the fall. And I don't think he can justify a $200 million expense for a special election. I mean, come on. I just don't think anybody's going to support that. But if he wants to try it, hey, it's like they say throwing gold bars off the Titanic. Go for it.
That's right. Thank you for the call, sir. Let's go to Cliff in Vallejo. Cliff, hello.
Hey, what's cracking with you, John and Randy, man? Top of the day to you guys, man. I just wanted to touch base with you guys about Gavin Newsom, bro. We all got one of these guys in our sphere of influence. You understand what I'm saying? You just know who they are, okay? You're a piece of crap. You always been a piece of crap. And that's what it is, okay? You understand what I'm saying? You could put on your fancy suit, you could put on this, and you could go to Napa and do what you do in your restaurant and all that. But you are who you are, a narcissistic idiot. That's what you are, okay? And people like that, what are you going to do with them? Ain't nothing you could do with them, but, I don't know. Just don't let them into your area of influence. These people are crazy. That's it. And that's what it is right there, man. But what I want to talk to you about really is about my trip to L.A. You remember I told you guys, I emailed you guys and told you that I was going to be coming to L.A. last weekend because it was my birthday and I went down there. You understand what I'm saying? Me and my wife drove down there. We had a great time with my friends. You understand what I'm saying? We actually went, I don't know if you guys know about this, but there's a thing, the LACMA, it's called the Los Angeles County Museum of Arts, and they do a Friday jazz concert every Friday, okay? And me and my buddy, actually, that's why I went down there, because his birthday is the same birthday as mine. And he's a member of that particular foundation, and he had a special place for him where they let him do his party and all of that. And we had a good time. Everything was great. But what I'm saying is, man, it was the beautiful people that I saw down there while I was in L.A., man. And just from every race, everything, man. It was just so nice. It's so beautiful, and so, you know what I'm saying, so introspective of what L.A. really is. You understand what I'm saying? And that's what it is. It ain't about the homeless and all that. It's about those people who was there at that Friday concert. You understand what I'm saying, man? We had such a great time. It really was. It was a good time, man, And I just want to share it out with you guys,
I'm glad you had a great time in L.A., and happy birthday, Clifton.
You remember what I said. Tell me the places to avoid.
All right. Well, thanks for calling. Have a great weekend, Clifton. We always appreciate it.
Clifton's the best.
Let's go to Kirk in Cyprus. Kirk, hello.
Hello. Yeah, you ask what we think about our beloved governor. I think he's a buffoon, and he might as well be standing in front of a mirror or an oil painting when he delivers his little tirades, because nobody cares when we all think he's confident. Shall I mince words?
Well, I love the ones you gave us. Thank you for the call, sir. Let's go to Guy in San Francisco. Guy, hello.
Hey, how you doing, guys?
Good.
Isn't Gavin Newsom's relationship with Nancy Pelosi something there? She's her aunt or something like that?
It's not as close as people think it is. I think what happened is some relative of Paul Pelosi, Nancy's husband, married into Gavin Newsom's, I think, father's side. So there's a marriage that exists there, but they're not blood relatives.
Okay, so my point is getting around to is that, it's kind of interesting that we're told he wants to spend $30 million on a campaign or whatever. Well, first of all, where does he get it? Because the point is he's supposed to get, I don't know how many hundreds of thousands of dollars to be a governor, right? But he spends $24 million or $18 million on this property in Mill Valley, which is up North Bay, San Francisco. Where do you get that kind of money when he doesn't have the income to afford that kind of thing? And then, two, if he's going to spend $30 million, who's getting it? And where did he get the $30 million from? Just follow the money in all these questions, because we always talk about somebody spending that much, but who's getting it? Because that's a big part of the puzzle. You know what I mean?
Well, think about this. So he's governor of California. So nothing goes down in this state without him signing off on it. No labor contract with a big union, no contract with a vendor. Nothing happens unless he says okay. And that also includes if we're going to build a new university, we're going to build or shut down a prison. All of these decisions carry a lot of weight with them. And they have a huge impact on whoever it is that's the vendor or the union who wants the contract, or whoever stands to benefit or stands to be punished. And every time he makes a decision, there's an opportunity for him to raise money, because there are interested parties who want him to do what they want him to do. Well, he's termed out of office. He cannot run for another term as governor. So if you have business before the state and you need something from him, you have to give money to one of his accounts that he can then turn around and spend on this initiative or whatever it is that he wants to spend the money on. And when you think about how large California is, we're essentially the size of the United Kingdom or France or Germany. And he makes decisions that impact that amount of people. Gavin Newsom has an unbelievable ability to raise money because of the power that comes with that office. And if you look at the last election or the recall election or the one before that, there was really not much of a chance for the opponent to win. Brian Dahle was never competitive. The opponent the first time around, John Cox, was never competitive. So he had money left over in those accounts that he could then roll over to future accounts. So he's sitting on a pile of cash, and he's just looking for a reason to spend it so he can put himself out there, get his name out there, and make himself look like he is the top opponent to Donald Trump. Thank you for the call, sir. 800-222-5222 is the telephone number. 1-800-222-5222. Right now, we're taking your calls at 800-222-5222. 1-800-222-5222. You all saw Gavin Newsom at his little party in Los Angeles yesterday. Now it's your opportunity to weigh in. Let's go to Mike in Livermore. Mike, hello.
Yeah, you gentlemen said that you covered Newsom for I watched him a long time. So do you believe he's delusional to the point he really believes all his lies, or do you think he's like a snake salesman, a snake oil salesman, and just knows he's peddling lies and just people are gullible enough to believe it? Like OAC and Nancy Pelosi, I do think that they're true believers in their own lies. But what do you think he is? Which one?
I think he is someone who is whatever he has to be at any given moment. I went through the man's history.
He knows he's lying?
Think about this.
He's lying?
He wrote a book. I think it's called Citizen Government.
Citizenville,
that's right. When he was lieutenant governor. And when he was lieutenant governor, that job has no duties. So he used it as an opportunity to get booked on the shows and put himself in front of the people. And one of the things that he did was write the book Citizenville, which is a right-of-center view of local government, of how government should run. And when he was soliciting people in the media to write reviews of the books, one of the people that he solicited was Mark Levin. And Mark Levin wrote a review of the book that praised the book as a conservative look at how government should operate. That's back when he was trying to court the business community and right-of-center voters and people he thought who could really do something for him. And it wasn't until he ran for governor against Antonio, and Antonio got all the charter school money, which I'm sure Gavin thought should have gone to him. And so he had to reimagine himself, and he became the advocate for the teachers' unions. And that's when he went all in with CTA. He did that not because he had an ideological conversion. He did that because that was the lane that was available at the time. That was the group that could pony up the money, that could counteract. It was then Eli Broad, who has since passed away, and Dick Reardon and others who were the charter school people. But he did what he had to do to survive that election and win. And then after he won, he resurveyed the situation. And he says, okay, what do I have to be now? And that's just what we're dealing with him.
So he's a lying chameleon.
Yeah.
Kind of a little bit. Well, I don't think Harris is that smart, but she's a chameleon. I think she's a stupid chameleon, but she is a chameleon also.
He's smarter than she
tries
is.
to be. Yeah. Oh, I agree. So you think he's definitely smart, knows when he's lying, just doesn't care.
Yeah, I think he's an inauthentic flake. If you were to force me to come up with a description, he is an inauthentic flake.
All right. Fair enough.
All right.
Thank you for your analysis. I think that's fair.
Thanks for the call. I appreciate it. Let's go to Mike in L.A. Mike, hello.
Hi, I'd like to know what happened to the pre-pandemic $1 billion of California taxpayers that Newsom sent to China and never got anything in return. He got scammed by the Chinese and only got $150 million back. Has that ever been addressed? I'm surprised and shocked that it's not in the airwaves and on the news all the time.
Any contract that Newsom signed during COVID that turned out not to be good, I'm sure he would describe as the fog of war. You go back at the lockdown policies, just take the lockdown, for example, whether it was the beaches being closed, the golf courses being closed, the parks being closed, the schools being closed, whatever. His now new spin on that is now, I was only doing what Trump told me to do. The federal government told me to do all that, and I just did what they said. And I would have preferred not to shut everything down, but that's what they said, and that's what they said the science was dictating, so I just did what they said. And if there were any mistakes that were made, it's not my fault, it's the federal government's fault.
Well, I think that this should be exposed, and where is the money that the taxpayers that we paid for nothing? You know.
All right.
You there? Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm still here. Yeah. I'm still here. I worked with Alan Cranston and Ted Kennedy exposing the government's forced relocation of indigenous people from sacred lands, the Hopi Navajo issue.
Oh, what do you know? We're out of time.
With 30 seconds left going into that, can't do that. Sorry. Hard break.